Welcome to Two Way Tonight. I'm Mark Halperin. Thank you for joining at 6 a.m. Eastern Time on Monday, June 9th. Not sure why I need to tell you the date and time, but I've chosen to do that because I want to mark the occasion. What an incredible news day it's been. Primarily, the news we'll discuss tonight revolves around what's going on in Los Angeles and this epic tale of President Trump and the Democrats and the media trying to make sense of an important set of issues. Everything that's happened today, I would say, would be a straight through line from where we thought the story was this morning. So don't be expecting some massive shift in the narrative, but a lot of important things. And Donald Trump talked not once but twice today before cameras. We'll show you some of that. And of course, Gavin Newsom talked as well. And Gavin Newsom has become kind of the face of the opposing point of view. But President Trump also has a lot of other Democrats talking to him about what he's done. And the protests spread a little bit around the country. So this is going to play out in multiple venues. Grateful to you for being part of Two Way. The presumption of grace remains our guiding principle, along with peace, love, and understanding. And so if you decide to write something in the chat today here on Two Way platform or on YouTube or on X, please do not include smack in what you write. And if you want to get in on the conversation here, please raise your electronic hand. We'd love to have you. We had 3 new people this morning, including a heretofore unheard from member of the Taylor family. I won't rest until every Taylor offspring, cousin, and vendor plays a role here in the program. So we'll bring our 2 guests in. We've had a switch up on one guest because of a family issue, but 2 all-time favorites. If there were a two-way Hall of Fame, both of these gentlemen would not only be in it, but they would have been elected on the first ballot. Matt Gorman, Republican strategist, and a fella goes by the name of Dan Turrentine. You might know him. You probably know him as one of the members of the quintet that hosts the group chat, but he also is on a little bitty program called The Morning Meeting. Grateful to have both of them here. Let's run through the news with them because I've got very little interesting to say. Just being honest, I say moderately interested. Here's Dan. And here, ladies and gentlemen, maybe Matt Gorman's not here yet. Is that right, Lori? Matt's not here yet?
He's just texting me. He's having an issue. Hold on.
Having an issue. All right. Well, here's Dan. I got to tell you guys that the opportunity to listen to just me and Dan chitter chatter is something that some people would pay top dollar for. So, and Dan is my guest tomorrow on Next Up. So there's going to be a lot of Mark and Dan colloquizing. Dan, just your general 80,000 foot view of obviously Gavin Newsom's not backing down and Donald Trump's not backing down. What cards would you say Gavin Newsom has to play here?
Well, I think the first is if Newsom's got to show that he can get this under control, that there's not a need for this. I mean, I think right now, as long as there are scenes of violence, scenes of disruption, then Trump has the upper hand because the perception is that Los Angeles cannot control this and that neither Karen Bass nor Governor Newsom are doing what is necessary. And as we talked about this morning, I'm not even sure if they wanted to, they could. I mean, perhaps only New York City with its police force and its ability to handle, so many big events here at once could do it. So I think for Newsom, and it's not helpful now that more and more Democrats, at least some prominent names, are kind of rushing to his defense with some crazy statements about kind of free immigrants. And this is all crazy. And it goes to this, theory that some parts of the party just don't believe that there is an immigration problem fundamentally. And that is not going to help Gavin Newsom, who, by the way, a week or 2 ago, I think it was on a Friday, comes out and starts introducing legislation to take some benefits away from immigrants. And now he's kind of zooming back to the other direction. So.
Yes, it's interesting how he is playing this. Here's Matt Gorman, ladies and gentlemen. Matt Gorman, welcome in. If Susie Wiles called you and said, Matt, are we at risk of overplaying anything here on this immigration stuff? What would you say?
I would say watch about 4:50. CNN interviewed Zach Nunn, and Zach represents a district right outside of Des Moines, Iowa, 50-50 district. He won by 2,000 votes in 2022. He won 52-48 last year. He was behind the president as much as you could be. If there was a district that would have daylight, it would be someone like his or a Don Bacon's. Number two, I would say also, look, Gavin has to play this game. He's in it, right? I don't see Pete Buttigieg or Wes Moore or Tim Walz out there marching to LA, getting on the first flight to LAX, not just because you have to fly into LAX to do it. If this was a winner, you would see everybody and their mother who wants to run for president going down there in the picket lines. They know this is a loser of an issue.
That's a great point. Although you're right, if it were a winner, they should be there. I will say this is one of my many critiques of this group is they're not the most nimble.
No,
and they don't think in those terms. All right, let's thank you both for your opening remarks. Let's show some headlines. Number one, Pentagon said today that Marines are going to be deployed, as Pete Hegseth had previously forecast or previewed. Marines are deploying to Los Angeles. Moose comes in the wake. Again, it different than sending active duty is different than sending reserves, but let's see what they do. My guess is their job's going to be to deter, set up infrastructure and man it and deter it. Matt, is it okay to say man, or is that too gender specific? And I should say person it. Can I say man it?
To person, or
Yeah.
human.
Yeah. Anyway, that's
we have a problem with men, so you can say man from our side of the party.
Okay. Number two, is a New York Times headline. As I said, the protests have spread to other cities around the country as people are upset about this. So one thing, Dan, I'll start with you on this. One thing that I hear from civilians all the time is well, not one thing. I hear a lot from civilians that presupposes more command and control than exists in either party. That they could somehow, have a conference call and tell everybody to, student body left if they were going student body right. It does seem, not everybody agrees with us, but it does seem, I heard from not an insignificant number of Democrats today who said, Mark, how dare you say that these riots are worse than January 6th? And I checked the record. I never said that.
Yeah.
But this is a product of the Trump derangement syndrome. I've been very, I think, careful in my language. But if the consensus of us, and all of us agree on this, I don't even need to ask Matt specifically. If the consensus is a disaster for Democrats, you say, well, we got to get House members to stop talking about, all of this stuff, and local officials, Democratic officials. Like, Dan, if you were, let's say you were Ron Brown or some powerful figure, Chuck Schumer, Hakeem Jeffries, whatever, or Nancy Pelosi in her heyday. Like if you were, or Bill Clinton in his heyday, if you were a powerful figure and you wanted to change the party's messaging, what would you do? Like if you said, we got to change this, like, how could you do that?
Yeah, well, I mean, as you say, the party is divided, and it's hard to get people to agree to a solution when they don't see a problem. I think that actually Ray Marciano, if he's on here, sent me a note earlier today that I thought was actually like a brilliant idea, which is, I think, one, the party needs to support law and order. Again, you cannot harm personnel or property. Two, I think the party would be wise to do something like say, look, let's call for a 6-month moratorium on these deportations and give Congress an opportunity between now and the end of the year to come up with a comprehensive solution, some sort of way to get into the game, to get on offense, to put solutions on the table, kind of try to hug this issue a little bit and try to make it seem like deporting 20 million is not reasonable. It's not probably good for the economy. It's just kind of not practical. So here is a middle ground. Try to push Trump to the extreme to be seen as kind of out of control. It was the best kind of short-term solution that I've heard, the way the party could try to get back into the game. But again, there are big parts of our party who would say to that, there is no problem. This is all an overreaction. If we fight hard enough, we'll win.
Matt Gorman, the Democrats are always saying that Donald Trump has done something to doom him. Yeah. And they'll say, people don't get how bad this is. Do you think and there's some polling on this, but it's a moving target. Do you think there might be a backlash against sending Marines in?
That's like the thing about it is like you have all these liberal commentators and folks in the media, this is going to be the thing. This could doom him, whatever. Right. But like they're not having esoteric discussions about what it means to have Marines in or the Insurrection Act or whatever, when there's concrete being thrown at cops or when there's,
Yeah.
cars aflame, right? I think people just fail to understand that in a lot of respects, right? And I think Dan makes a good point where, for the last couple months, Democrats have talked about, well, we
Living room.
realized that immigration was a big deal, right? The southern border, people feel it was safe. But this is where the rubber meets the road. We went through in our party on a host of issues after we lost presidential elections, where yes, you realize there's a problem, but it's times like these where, okay, if you're going to actually follow through on what you say, you want to lose 5 pounds, you got to get an exercise bike. You want to follow through and say that immigration's an issue. Times like this is where you actually have to put it into practice. That's where the rubber meets the road. That's a hard part.
Yeah. I want you two guys to ask each other questions before we move on, but let me just bring up something Dan said this morning. It really, sometimes in politics, you do poorly when you can't say the truth, and voters sort of get a sense of it. So, like, there was this long period where Nancy Pelosi and Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton pretended they weren't for same-sex marriage. And so it just wasn't a great thing to say because everybody knew they weren't telling the truth. On this one, and Dan has made this point, a very smart point. I really don't know what AOC thinks should happen to the 20 million people here illegally. People on the left, like, what do they think? They won't really say. Like, they think they should all just be given amnesty. I don't know, but it's just so difficult to understand where the Democrats are on this because they seem to be saying we're for keeping people here illegally over protecting law enforcement from being attacked. That's basically what they seem to be saying. You guys got questions for each other? Feel free. If not, I'll move on. Do you have any questions for each other? No? Okay.
No, I mean, look, I think, Matt, if you like, one thing I am curious about is like, where does Trump go from here? Like, what does this issue potentially look like in 26, in 28? Like, can they continue to press this for a lot longer? Or do you think it's because I know there's been frustration in the party that he's not moving fast enough, that they're not deporting enough people, that there's been kind of grumbling and increasing frustration on the right. I think he's fired 3 immigration heads in the last, in his first 6 months. Like, do you think there is a limit, like, that they can keep driving this, or do you think it's the gift that keeps on giving?
I do think it's a gift that keeps on giving for now. I will say this, like, when I was on the road with Tim Scott in 23, what was eye-opening for me going across the country, right? Not being here in DC or going to New York, wherever like that, was how you almost felt on issues like China and immigration, you almost couldn't go too far right for the not even just our base, but like the median-ish voter.
Yeah.
That was a huge takeaway for me, and it was eye-opening, and Trump had the pulse on that far faster than a lot of people.
Makes sense.
Yeah. And I guess for me, my question for you is, who did you want to see as a spokesperson on this? Like, in an ideal world, I mean, I saw, like, was it Linda or Loretta Sanchez? I get them all confused. She was awful on CNN. And who do you kind of want to see in the party if you had to do a cable hit to convince who would you want?
I mean, I would
want
Terry
Moran would be probably
Terry. A lot of free time for Terry.
I think someone like Ruben Gallego, who's from a border state, who can speak to, who one will say it is a problem. This is not fake news. This is not Fox News ginning it up. It is a real problem in my state. The inaction has caused, overcrowding in schools and in hospitals. It's a drain on our resources. Their crime is an issue. Again, this is not like a made up talking point. And here is how I would address it. Here are the things that we as a party, we need to admit there's a problem, and then we need to offer solutions. I think AOC is another one. I think, to Mark's point, she's actually begun in this first 6 months of this calendar year to show some, I think, awareness, whether she's going to run statewide or nationally, that she's got to broaden this. And I think when she speaks, the base listens, right? There isn't the knee jerk, like, okay, Rubin's a moderate from Arizona. He's got to say that, right? Maybe he doesn't really believe it. With AOC, it'd be like Nixon goes to China. There'd be a little like, whoa, you know. So I think if either of those two stepped forward, but like you said it earlier, I mean, I was looking today to as of this afternoon, Gretchen Whitmer has said nothing. Josh Shapiro has said nothing. I don't believe Chuck Schumer has said anything unless that has changed here this afternoon. And they've put out statements on other issues, right? Like, so it tells you that nobody wants to touch this. And this is the continued problem. There's just paralysis.
So sometimes reporters don't ask politicians questions because of bias. Sometimes it's ignorance. Sometimes it's laziness. One of my favorite examples of this is I once asked after Jennifer Granholm had been governor of Michigan for 3 or 4 years. I asked someone who worked with her what her position on NAFTA was. And they said she'd never taken a position on NAFTA. And I said, she ran for governor of Michigan and they never asked her position on NAFTA. And this person said, yeah, kind of crazy, right? Like everybody should be asked their position on this. But the Democrats who don't want to answer so far haven't, although I suspect it'll be asked about on the Hill tomorrow if it keeps going, right? Has to be.
Yeah, absolutely. Particularly Nancy Pelosi and the California delegation.
Yeah. All right, let's listen to some of the president talking about this today. Sam, this will be number 6. This is Donald Trump at a photo op this afternoon when he was asked about Gavin Newsom and the prospect of imprisoning the California governor, as the California governor has said, handcuff me, take me.
Well, what do you make of the fact that he says, you want a civil war on the streets of America?
No, it's just the opposite. I don't want a civil war. A civil war would happen if you left it to people like him. And I liked him. You know, I always got along with him. Never had a problem with him. But he's grossly incompetent.
Yeah. All right. Here's the president, same meeting, talking about the National Guard. Number 7, please.
He helped in a lot of problems they were having out there. They were afraid to do anything, and we sent out the troops, and they've done a fantastic job. So I want to thank them very much.
All right, I introduced the wrong bike. Here's number 16. This is the president talking about jailing Gavin Newsom outside Marine One.
Gavin Newsom he's daring Tom Homan to come and arrest him. Should he do it? I would do it if I were Tom. I think it's great. Gavin likes the publicity, but I think it would be a great thing. He's done a terrible job. Look, I like Gavin Newsom. He's a nice guy, but he's grossly incompetent. Everybody knows. All you have to do is look at the little railroad he's building. It's about 100 times over budget. We're putting a flagpole over there. Under budget. I always do under budget.
All right, let's play political consultants. Matt, you first. If you worked for Gavin Newsom now, and he said, should I keep up this tempo, tenor posture, or should we ratchet down, or should I go even more nuclear? What would you advise?
There's every incentive for both sides to keep escalating for their respective bases and their respective political constituencies. I mean, Gavin would love nothing more than to be arrested by Trump, and Trump would love nothing more than to do, in theory, do it. Because it just plays to their respective bases. Like it is one of those rare times in politics where both sides it is incentivized to keep going further and view it as a win.
All right, I think Dan disagrees with you. Dan.
No, I mean, I think now he's pregnant. Like, I think now you've got to stay on that front foot now, because this is now look, one of the things Democrats always say when they think of Trump is like strength and toughness, right? The party doesn't have it. We don't fight hard enough. Well, Gavin's trying to go there now, right? It is like macho. I think, Matt, you're totally right. Like, he'd love it if he goes handcuffed. It'd be like Trump's mugshot. I mean, there'd be the fundraising solicitation would be out the door before the click finished. Like, so I think if you're Gavin now, you cannot back down. But the flip side is you've got to be doing everything you can to condemn the violence and try to get it under control on your own, just like with the wildfires. You got to try to get this under control and look like that you are in control, not helpless, and Trump's the one, rescuing your city.
Interesting. All right. Here's some more video we'll take a look at. Here is Congressman Jayapal in San Francisco, number 9, please.
We are here to say free the immigrants that have been arrested.
The immigrants that have been arrested.
We are here to say end the ICE raids.
End the ICE raids.
Okay, and here's some protesters in Trump Tower, number 10.
Since you have refused to leave the premises, you are now subject to arrest. If you do not accompany the arresting officer voluntarily, you are now subject to arrest.
Give me all right, we saw this. Kill this. A question for both of you. What is the second most famous escalator in the world? Matt Gorman.
The first one's the Gwen Trump Tower. The second one's probably the circular one. It's like in Europe or Vegas or something like that. I don't know
that. I don't know that. Dan, what's the second most famous escalator in the world?
I only know of one, Trump Tower.
Okay.
What is it?
I don't know. But somebody's going to ask ChatGPT and let us know. I don't know. There's got to be a number 2. Like there are a lot of escalators. Maybe I don't know which one you're talking about in Europe. Maybe I don't know, the escalator, Madison Square Garden. I don't know. All right, here's a union official, teachers union official in San Francisco, number 8, screaming about ICE raids.
This will be good.
Yeah.
Enough of the ICE raids. Enough of the cruelty and the hate. Enough of the division and disrespect. Enough. We know what this administration is doing. So we are saying to Donald Trump and all of his allies, we will not scapegoat immigrants.
That's right.
We will not. The people who helped build
Okay,
this country,
enough of this.
We
Enough of
will
this.
not stand by.
So today, the White House put out a email press release with the thumbnail descriptions of some of the people they said they arrested in LA. And it was a rogues gallery of people here illegally who they say, I don't know if people have been convicted of these crimes, but they accuse them of a bunch of just horrible crimes. And I'll be curious to see if the major papers write any of that up, right? Then, like, here they are saying free the immigrants. And again, it seems to me it's political malpractice, Dan, to go have a rally and say free these people. They don't know anything. I can't believe they know anything about them.
Yeah, I mean, look, looking at kind of the blue Twitterverse, blue sky, if you read it, these aren't like, there are no bad hombres. It is all like good, the busboy who's got the family and 3 kids in the school and coaches
Right.
Little League, right? Like there is no difference between kind of good people and questionable people and bad people. And that's where I think I said earlier, there is a significant part of our party that says there is no problem. That this is all made up, that we don't need to get rid of these people, that it's a small minority that thinks it's a problem, that they shouldn't. So I have a feeling we'll see that in campaign ads or, some ads being run in districts here very shortly. But that is insane. I mean, that is just insane to treat all these people as equal and not recognize that some of these folks are bad actors and they're here illegally.
Yeah. Matt, it's malpractice, it just seems to me, but that's the softest softball. It's not even a softball. It's like T-ball, putting that on the tee for you.
No.
But I mean,
What I'll say is this.
Drop it over the fence.
Yeah, really. Look at the NRCC. I used to get stupid freaking inquiries from all these reporters about what some state rep said in Alabama or Wyoming about some dumb position they took that no one never heard of this guy before, but it was content for them, and every Republican member of Congress and people had to answer for it. And I think it's just wild to what we were talking about before with Pelosi and others, free the immigrants, right? No one has to say anything about that. It's just, of course, they're never going to get asked about it, never going to get put on the spot.
Let me ask it this way. Like, most everybody in the Republican Party is for tax cuts for the wealthiest Americans. And that politically does not test well. If you poll that, it does not test well, almost no matter how you ask it. But there is an upside to it, both politically and policy-wise. Like, there's a positive, there's a theory of the case about why that's a positive thing. What's a position that Republicans have taken in the last 25 years that's as politically ridiculous as not speaking out in favor of deporting criminals who came to the country illegally and have committed rape and trafficking and drugs? Like, what's a thing the Republicans have been as politically suicidal about? Is there anything?
I mean, I'd give you maybe two. Like, one was January 6th. The silence was absurd.
Yeah.
They just didn't want to answer it because they didn't want to piss off the king.
Good example. Although to be fair, they did denounce it. Most of them did denounce it.
I would say it's actually
public.
Right? Yeah, they did. They
deplored. I mean, to some
extent,
they did, but
they did. They deplored it.
I think a lot of it was probably the election.
Well, hold on, Dan. What's the other one?
Gun control. Like some of the stuff about military grade weapons and people with, it's a 90-10 issue, but they don't. But they don't
seem to pay a price for it.
I agree.
Yeah. Okay. Matt, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I mean, I think probably after the 2020 election, you're probably having people say something like that, but it wasn't an electoral price thing for it, right? It was something, but
Well, I think in the midterms they paid a price in 2022. Some of those election deniers who ran for Secretary of State and governor and stuff did lose.
Yeah. These are good examples. All right, a little other news, and then we'll get to your questions. Please raise your hand if you'd like to be in the conversation. And Dan, you are first tonight, unless you turn off your camera or you walk away. Don't blame me if you don't get called. Don't get called on. Donald Trump today said he had no problem speaking with Elon Musk, if the world's richest man. Dialed him up. Here is number 18.
Elon Musk, do you plan to speak to him on the phone anytime soon?
I haven't really thought about it, actually. I would imagine he wants to speak to me. I would think so. If I were him, I'd want to speak to me, and maybe he's already called. You'd have to ask him whether or not he's already called. But I'd have no problem with it.
If he called you, pick up and speak to him?
Well, I don't want to say that, but I would imagine he'd want to talk to me.
Musk, for his part, I love the journalistic phrase, for his part. Musk, for his part, number 20 on social media platform known as X, used to formerly known as Twitter. So here's a tweet: Donald Trump on Elon Musk. We had a good relationship, and I wish him well. Very well, actually. Elon Musk hearted that. So that suggests a little closeness. John Thune and the Speaker of the House, number 21, met with the president today to talk about bill known as beautiful and gigantic. Still no clear sense of how the Senate's going to deal with this, but we all think they will. And finally, two things. First of all, number 23, Greta Thunberg's ship was intercepted by the Israelis, right? By the Israelis. Am I right about that? Am I right? I think I am. Here's Donald Trump.
Yes, you are.
Donald Trump, if you're at all a student of Donald Trump, you will not be the least bit surprised at his point of view about Ms. Thunberg. Number 23, please.
She's certainly different. Anger management. I think she has to go to an anger management class.
Do you
That's
think
my primary recommendation for her.
Was she kidnapped by Israel, as she says? Was she kidnapped?
I find it. I think Israel has enough problems without kidnapping Greta Thunberg.
And secondly, are you going to?
All right. Lastly, there's a provision in the giant reconciliation package that involves giving families with newborns $1,000 to put in new accounts. And again, if you're a student of Donald Trump, you won't be surprised what President Trump would like these new accounts to be called. For 22.
Here's how the accounts work. For every U.S. citizen born after December 31st, 2024, before January 1st, 2029, the federal government will make a one-time contribution of $1,000 into a tax-deferred account that will track the overall stock market. In other words, it'll be pegged to an index that we'll pick. Right, Michael? We'll pick it. We'll pick a good one. Maybe you should be the index. I'd like to have that. These kids would be very wealthy if that were the case. That would be good. I think we might do that, Michael Dell. These accounts will be private property controlled by the child's guardians, and in many cases, those guardians will be the parents. We think probably the parents will be the guardians. They'll be open for additional private contributions each year from family, friends, parents, employers, churches, private foundations, and more. This is a pro-family initiative that will help millions of Americans harness the strength of our economy to lift up the next generation, and they'll really be getting a big jump on life, especially if we get a little bit lucky with some of the numbers and the economies into the future. In addition to the substantial financial benefits of investing early in life, extensive research shows that children with savings accounts are more likely to graduate high school and college, buy a home, start a business, and are less likely to be incarcerated. Trump accounts will contribute to the lifelong success of millions of newborn babies. They are fully, and this will be very interesting, I think, for everybody to hear, they are fully funded through targeted reforms in the One Big Beautiful Bill, like the $1.7 trillion in mandatory savings, welfare reforms to stop waste and fraud, a 3.5% remittance tax,
enough
and
of this.
more.
We get the point. Matt Gorman, besides your criticism that cats are not eligible for the 1,000 baby kittens, what do you think of this? Forget the politics for a moment. Put on your wonky Brookings hat. Is this good public policy?
I mean, in theory, people love money, but if the bill is going to get expensive, is this an area that folks look to cut? But again, branding it the Trump account, try cutting the Trump account and see how that works for you. It's going to be a dicey thing. But certainly Republicans, I think, in theory, wouldn't mind having some of this money back to try and pay down the debt.
Dan, put on your H&R Block hat and tell me if this is a good idea.
Yeah, I'm sure they're loving this. Democrats actually talked about this years ago. I mean, it's great. It is great politics. I think it is a great idea. I believe some European countries do something similar where they give the family money when the child is born in an investment account to let it grow. Look, for all the heat Democrats took about some of these and Trump, it started under Trump, but the stimulus checks they handed out, suddenly then Republicans hated them when Biden, did it years later. And now we're doing this. Again, it's rich irony. If you believe in it, stand up for it.
It's kind of incredible on many levels, including, as he said, it's a Democratic idea. All right, time for your questions. Again, if you want to be in on the conversation, please raise your hand. As I unmute you, you'll tell us where you are for those who don't know, and then you'll ask what you want to ask. And Dan is long wanted to get Dan in. Big Ohtani fan, or maybe Roy Campanella. I don't know. Dan, welcome, and tell folks who don't know where you are and what's on your mind.
I'm from Los Angeles, California. I just wanted to start off with a quick quote from Kristi Noem in 2024. If Joe Biden federalizes the National Guard, that would be a direct attack on states' rights.
What were the circumstances?
I believe it was something to do with the border and standoff. I don't know the exact circumstances, but I think it's apropos here as well. We didn't call for the National Guard. We didn't call for any military. I drove around downtown LA today, and I saw a bunch of people standing around with signs. I saw some graffiti. I understand that there was cars on fire. When we have Laker victory parades here, or before the parades, right after the victory, there's a lot of knuckleheads that go into the streets and cause chaos. They burn cars, they trash things, they get into it with the police. But we're able to handle it here. And Donald Trump wants a civil war. He wants martial law. That's what we see here. We smell the authoritarianism in the air here. And that's what we're dealing with. That's what we think.
Okay.
Here in LA.
Dan, I'm going to ask you just a few questions. I greatly respect your coming on and sharing that and appreciate it. I'll ask you three questions. I'm going to turn you over to Dan and Matt.
Yeah.
Number one, were as far as you could tell from what you've seen and heard, were ICE agents threatened physically by protesters?
I'm sure some of them were. I'm
Okay.
sure they were. There
Okay.
are a few
Okay.
knuckleheads, yes.
Okay. Number two, based on the words from the LA police commissioner and other local officials, do you take them at their word early on that they didn't feel equipped to handle this situation? That's what they said on the record. Did you hear that? Do you accept that they were speaking truth when they said they were kind of overwhelmed? Is that accurate?
I mean, I would have to hear those exact quotes, but based on what
Yeah.
I saw today, I would say no. But
No.
I mean,
Okay.
I'm sure that they're entitled to their, their views.
Okay. And if ICE agents find and try to deport people who came to the country illegally and have been and are accused of committing acts of violence in the country, are you for deporting those people?
Yes, anyone here that's committed a violent act should be deported. Absolutely.
Okay. Turn you over to Matt and then Dan. Matt.
No, I guess so. What are you looking forward for tonight? Because I guess my thing is, if you say you have it handled, then handle it, right? I'm talking to Karen Bass and others, right? When I hear Jason Carroll of CNN talking about throwing concrete at cops, like it doesn't seem like it's being handled. And so I guess, do you foresee kind of similar issues tonight that you've had over the weekend as well?
I mean, I think that what Trump did was there was a brush fire and he threw kerosene on it. So now we're at this place now where, I don't know what's going to happen. Today things seem pretty calm, and I don't think it's because he brought in the military, you know. I mean, what I've seen on TV, let's start with the ICE raids that were happening over the weekend. There's these guys in tactical gear in masks without any paperwork, without any warrants, breaking into windows and pulling people out of cars and not telling them why they're being arrested. So you're creating an atmosphere of fear in the city. And that's what the people are feeling here. So I don't know what's going to happen. I think that this is what Trump wanted. He wanted the chaos. He wanted the possible civil unrest. And this is where we are. I don't know what's going to happen.
Dan to Dan.
Yeah. So Dan, first off, I got a lot of respect for you. I message with you sometimes and I ask your opinion. So one of the things here is like, once you get past the bad hombres, and I'm not sure we're past the bad hombres, but it's going to eventually go there. It's my understanding from the LA Times that what triggered this was a city council or state assemblyman who saw ICE officials gathering in a parking lot, pulled off the side of the road and went live on Instagram to warn his community members that ICE was getting ready to do something. And I think there was a Home Depot across the street with day laborers. And so that could be the target, but whatever. And the community rallied to come out to say, basically, no ICE agents, deporting these people. Essentially, I'm paraphrasing. So let's assume they're not bad hombres. Let's assume Tom Homan's exaggerating and is. What is your stick? What do you believe that ICE has a right to go and, if it's day laborers at a Home Depot, kind of raid it and start the deportation process?
I think if you have probable cause and you have somebody that you're going after specifically and you have the paperwork, by all means. But I've seen video after video after video of them just going up to cars in unmarked vans. From some of them have like Mexico plates, and they're just going up to cars, knocking on the window, breaking the window and pulling people out. Like, I see them going into like the garment district and just breaking in there and pulling people out. That's what I'm seeing in video after video after video. And I don't know why the national media is not. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, and that's what's making you emotional, and you think people in the community are seeing similar.
I think the people in the community are seeing the same videos and they're seeing this, yeah, I think the community's rallying around this. And there's no videos rolling around right-wing media of bad hombres with tattoos on their face getting arrested. There's a lot of videos of grandmothers, of fathers, of little kids getting caught up in these dragnets. That's what we're seeing. So if all these people are bad hombres, send them away. But I haven't seen any evidence of it.
What do you think the Democratic Party should do?
I think
broadly
Gavin
on
Newsom,
this issue. Yeah.
I think follow Gavin Newsom's lead right now on this. I think he's been spot on. I think Matt mentioned Loretta Sanchez earlier on CNN. I thought she was spot on. So that's my position on it. I think what Gavin Newsom is doing is the right thing. And if he's running for president, he's got my support now.
Okay.
Thank you. Really appreciate it, Dan. Thanks for coming. Grateful to have you. Okay. Again, bring folks in. If you'd like to be in the conversation, raise your hand. And let's go to Ray, who has extraordinary insight on this matter, as he does on almost everything.
Ray, I gave you a shout out earlier for your idea, just so you know.
Yeah.
Give credit where credit's due.
Welcome in, Ray.
I heard that, Dan. Thank you very, very much. I have 2 points. And one gets to Dan's point about Democrats. So here in Ohio is my first point. Here in Ohio, not far from me, there is this massive uproar over a high school graduate, 19-year-old with a job, who is here illegally and has been taken into custody by ICE. He got snatched up during some sort of effort during one of the local Home Depots. He was standing there, he got snatched up by ICE, and there's this massive uproar. Oh my God, why would you do this to this kid? Democrats are, oh my God, why would you do this to the kid? Well, there's an issue that isn't being discussed, and it's a problem with a lot of this coverage, and that is last month, an immigration judge said, no, you cannot stay in the country. We are denying you and your family your application for asylum. So really, the federal government has got the absolute right to send them back, and Democrats are once again on the wrong side of the issue. And when people start talking about that, they're going to get absolutely hammered by Republicans. And the second point that I'll make is Trump is a master at agitating and then pulling back from the brink. I think that's what we're going to see. I think that's what we're seeing now with the Marines. But I do think the growing protest will be his Achilles heel, because people across both parties don't want arbitrary arrests. They want bad people and people who shouldn't be here gone, just like I do and lots of people do. But as the stories keep coming out about hardworking people in the midst of their cases being heard, being arrested and deported, eventually people are going to say enough. It happened during the Civil Rights Movement, happened during Vietnam, happened during George Floyd. And if history is an accurate guide, it's going to happen again. Thanks very much, guys.
Ray, I think you make a great point, and I forget I think it was Missouri. There was a story last week about in Missouri, this small town with like 10,000 people, and there's a restaurant like on Main Street that's like the main restaurant. And there's a waitress that people have seen for like 25 years that greets everyone, knows everyone's name. And she got swept up. And there was outrage. I mean, there's this ruby red conservative district. And the town was very concerned. What happened to our, favorite waitress? And which, long story short, they released her back into the community. But to your point, as they start to touch kind of regular people who are just pillars in your neighbor, polling shows it's unpopular if they go that route. And that's where I think the party can try to split Republicans to be extreme. But if we're so far off to the left, even if Trump is really far to the right on this issue, they'll take the far right to the far left.
Matt, anything?
Look, Democrats want to fight this on a micro basis, right? They want to have the fight over the Abrego Garcias. They want to personalize and make every single person into a story that benefits them, right? Republicans want to zoom it out, macro. They want the visuals. You're seeing it in LA right now. And I think, so far our party has done a better job of kind of that narrative. We got a little bit in the thicket on Abrego Garcia, but they righted the ship on it, in my opinion. But I think that is gonna how this battle is gonna be. Right now, it's more macro than micro that helps us.
Ray, just say a bit more about how you grade the performance of the media on this so far.
I think it's too much blocking and tackling. I think it's too much blocking and tackling. I think the headlines are just terrible. I actually think the coverage, when you start getting deep down into the coverage, is okay. But like today, I think, Mark, I sent you one from the New York Times, where the New York Times led today with some sort of analysis of what this might mean, instead of a headline of like, following a night. One of the Democratic congressmen called it dangerous. And says, following a dangerous night in Los Angeles, the city braces for what's next, which is more accurate of what's going on. And we're not seeing very much of that. We're actually not seeing very much of that on either side. When it comes to some of the more conservative leaning media, they're, of course, going all in on the cars on fire and a couple of knuckleheads, and so on, not more than a couple, but the knuckleheads who are throwing stuff off highways. Nobody is really doing the kind of cogent analysis that we need in order for everybody to make a rational judgment, not only what's going on, but how to get out of this and how to get to a process where we can do better for everybody.
Amen. Thank you for that. All right, here's a little video that somebody posted just on X. This is around the detention center in LA. You see National Guards and you see a lot of people flooding the area. Which the person who posted this thinks portends another night of conflict. But let's go ahead and take a look at this new video. Now, I want to show you one other thing. My friend Harry Anton, who does polling analysis for CNN, CNN continues to let him on the air, even though he says things that are not necessarily consistent with a lot of their messaging on the two parties. Here's Harry earlier today talking about where Democrats stand on polling on the issue of immigration. Roll tape, please.
You know, if we just take a look at the baseline numbers here, this is Trump's net approval rating on immigration. It's gone up like a rocket. Compare now versus 8 years ago during Trump's first term. Look at this. In his first term, Trump was way, way, way underwater at minus 21 points. But look at this. He's up over 20 points. Now, in the aggregate, he is in positive territory at plus 1 point on his net approval rating. Some other polls even have it a little bit higher than that. There is no issue on which Trump is doing so much better than he was in his first term, more than the issue of immigration. No wonder the Times has written up the way that he is. Trump is begging for a fight on this because he knows what he's doing so far is working with the American electorate.
Where does immigration rank on issues for him? How is he doing compared to others?
Yeah, so I think what's so important is it is his top issue so far. And the reason it is his top issue is because take a look at the individual nuggets in here. Why are people approving of Trump on immigration, approve of these different immigration actions, while Trump's administration's program to deport those here illegally? Look at this, 54% approval. How about agents searching your hometown for those that they think are here illegally? Again, positive territory here, above 50% for Donald Trump. So it's not just on the broad issue of immigration where Trump is doing well, it's on the specifics. When you dive into the issues, Trump is above 50% and his actions are above 50%, at least with those most directly connected to what's going on right now out in Los Angeles.
So Donald Trump, the president, picking a fight on this, and to an extent, you see Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass, a Democrat, and the California Governor Gavin Newsom pushing back. So what do voters see in terms of their perceptions of Republicans, the president, or Democrats, say Gavin Newsom, on this issue?
Yeah, the American electorate believe that the Democrats don't have a clue on the issue of immigration. I mean, you could just take it here. Closer to trust more in immigration, Democrats versus Republicans. Got 3 different polls for you across the board. They all tell the same story. Republicans lead on the issue of immigration. You see it here, CBS +6. You see it here, CNN +6. You see it here, Ipsos, even bigger, plus 19. No matter what poll you look at, no matter which way you cut it, the American public is with the Republicans, the American public is with Donald Trump, and to a much greater extent than they were in term number one. And it's not just on the broad issue of immigration, it's on the specifics as well, in which the American public is with Donald Trump and the Republicans. And that is why Donald Trump is eager to take on this fight and eager for those scenes out of Los Angeles.
I was just going to use that word eager. This explains some of that eagerness to push forward ever more on this as it escalates. Harry, and thank you very much for all.
All right, Matt Gorman, my first question is, why does our friend Harry talk like that?
Because it's entertaining as hell, and I love having to quote those segments back to the folks on CNN later in the day.
Yeah, and he gets retweeted by the right on a regular basis. But any flaw in Harry's data or judgment there?
I mean, it tracks with everything I know to be true about this issue. I would say they're confident to engage in this fight. I mean, it's really not anything they're backing down from. It explains why they have absolutely no issue talking to Gavin Newsom and at Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass the way they are. So, again, like they're not ramping down this anytime soon. So just, I would say get ready.
Yeah, I got a little bit of a different view on that. I mean, one, I think he's down underwater on almost every other issue. So this has been the one issue the last few months that he's kind of hovered around 50-50. I'm actually surprised it's only +6. Like the plus 19 was okay. That his immigration numbers came down on the Kilmar-Abrego issue. They did. I know people find that to be baffling, but they did. Democrats actually led on that issue, which is why I think they receded it. I think the difference is I don't necessarily know if he wins on just ICE going to a Home Depot to get day laborers. I think where he's on much stronger ground is when people are pelting police cars and it looks like chaos. That, I think, is his strong suit on this issue. I think there's a reason Holman keeps saying they're all bad hombres. I don't know if they're all bad, because what we've seen days later is they're not all bad hombres. So they know that's the one card they can keep banging. So I actually think he's a little more tenuous on the issue of immigration, but, law and order, it's in the wheelhouse.
Yeah. All right. Peter, welcome in. Tell folks who don't know where you are what's on your mind.
Hi. Excuse me. Good to see you guys again. I'm in Berkeley, California.
You ran Matt off.
Oh no.
All right. Let the dog
out. Don't worry,
Matt.
I'm not hostile.
Right.
Excuse me. So my question is around the fact, Dan, that there was a letter that was signed today, I believe, about sort of basically denouncing sending in the National Guard, that all of the Democratic governors signed, which I thought was great. Even the supposedly moderate ones like Josh Shapiro and Andy Beshear, and even Katie Hobbs, who is up for re-election next year in a border state that Donald Trump won by 5 points. So it just seems to me that there is this commitment to the most, among elected Democrats, this commitment to the most extreme position on this issue to almost a suicidal extent. What would you think about that?
Well, I think I haven't seen the letter, but I am guessing that it is more of the states' rights issue, that the federal government cannot just come and take over our National Guard kind of short of very extraordinary circumstances. And I believe that if President Kamala Harris were attempting to do the same thing, we would see Republican governors laying down in the road saying over our dead body, are you going to do this? So, I get that. Look, the issue in California is really, was Newsom and Bass moving fast enough to deal with this? And did they, I don't think the LAPD had the resources. Did the California National Guard? And I believe at first, maybe not by last night, but Friday night, I think Newsom and Bass were kind of like Dan said with the Laker riots. This happens sometimes. It's not that big of a deal. Few people got roughed up. We've already ordered the LAPD not to help with the raids. Nobody is to help with any of this. And then they realized they had a much bigger problem.
Yeah, I mean, as a Californian, I can tell you what I think about, Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass. Not a fan.
Look, in New York City, if people threw rocks at police officers, I'd be pissed off.
Yeah,
I don't care what they're, you cannot attack them. You just
Right.
can't.
No, it's just, and you know, and the other thing that really got me was Hakeem Jeffries, who he's now, I think, 3 times called for ICE agents to not to be like unmasked. It's like you know what it's like, you know what that's going to do. That is to get people doxxed, and people can then, you know, people can look up their addresses and potentially, you know, do terrible things, or at least threaten them. It's like he's now said that I think at least 2 times, if not 3. So it's like you know, you know what you're doing when you do that, and it's just
Well,
it's
and I
unbelievable.
will say, because I've seen this all day, Republicans calling for unmasking of FBI agents that worked on J6. I mean, like, unfortunately, both parties are kind of going there in the last few years of trying to intimidate federal officials doing things they don't believe in. And it's horrific.
And I
Way to
disagree
go.
with that when it comes to like rank and file people. I think that there were issues, you know, in the FBI with leadership people, you know, who like, you know, special agents in charge of field offices, for instance, where like the memo was put out that designated traditional Catholics as potential terror threats. You know, when you're like, I think there's a difference between pointing out that the special agent in charge, whose name is listed on the local field office's website already, is, you know, that's happening under their authority, and I agree, but I agree, like the rank and file people on either side who are should not be targeted in that way.
CIA officers they went after earlier this year, like, you know.
Yeah, horrible. Peter, thank you. Very grateful to you. Matt Gorman, tell everybody if they enjoy your work where they can see and get more.
Head over to my X account. I'll be there, but then I'll be on TV throughout the course of the week, and but I'm not walking the dog.
Yeah. You're Matt. What's your middle initial, right?
At Matt S. Gorman on X.
Matt S. Gorman. And people want to enjoy you on TV. Where do you show up on TV?
I was just on CNN today. I'll be on NBC a little bit later in the week. Probably Fox 2 once or twice. We'll see. TBD.
All right.
Wow, you go across the.
I crow across the channel.
And I want an honest answer. And if the answer is negative, you'll say it. Why is being on Two-Way different than being on cable news or Meet the Press even?
Same reason I love traveling with Tim Scott. You hear from people who are outside of the Beltway, DC, New York. You get all across the country, left, right, center. It's a lot of fun.
Put that in the promo, everyone. Dan, where can we see you soon?
The morning meeting tomorrow, and every Monday and every weekday. The group chat on Thursday, and tentatively with my friend Jesse Waters Thursday night.
Okay.
Subject to change.
Subject to change. And Dan and Bacha are my guests on the next episode of Next Up on the main.
I don't know if I can say that publicly. Sorry.
You can say that publicly. You can say that. And so you'll see them. And Bacha, Dan's co-host on
News Nation, 9 p.m.
9 p.m. tonight is doing her maiden guest anchoring for our another friend of ours, Leland Vitter. So if you cannot get enough of Bacha, and who can get enough of Bud? Who can't get enough? What is it? Who can't get enough? At 9 a.m. tonight on News Nation, available where you can get your News Nation. Finally, gentlemen, here's my question for you: what will happen tonight in Los Angeles? Are you predicting a night of peace or a night of conflict? Dan.
Conflict.
Matt.
Hope for the best, expect the worst.
Yeah. I'm going with peace, just so I can take a flyer on it. Maybe it'll all be fine. Matt, very grateful to you for making time for us, and Dan, always grateful. And I'll see you at 9 a.m. and I'll see everybody here, presumably at 9 a.m. For the morning meeting, and in 23 hours right back here. And we'll have more to promote shortly. But very grateful to you for being part of the Two-Way community. Hasta la vista. Good night. Good luck. Farewell, and see you soon.
Where's the term?